Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you one of the free lessons from my gluten-free baking courses, Gluten-free Banana Bread. So give it a watch, and if you want the written recipe, head on over to my site, glutenfreebakingcourses.com, create a free account, and you'll gain instant access to all the free lessons on my site. All right, enough chit chat. Take it away, Robyn. In this video, we'll be making gluten-free banana bread. Before my celiac diagnosis, I used to make banana bread all the time, and my go-to recipe never failed me. I could add an extra banana, cut out the sugar, or make it vegan, and it always turned out great. That wasn't the case after my diagnosis. When I tried making my go-to recipe with several different gluten-free all-purpose blends, the results were dry, crumbly, gummy, or just tasted weird. That's why I developed this banana bread recipe. It's super versatile, keeps its moisture for days, and tastes amazing. Plus, it's healthier than most banana bread recipes out there. So, let's get started. The first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit and grab your pan. For banana bread, I like to use an 8.5 by 4.5 inch pan. I find this kind of pan gets more height than a 9 by 5 pan, but if that's all you have, that's totally fine. And we're just gonna grease it. So you can either use cooking spray, or I like to just use a little bit of butter, and I just spread it on with my fingers. Nice and greasy, let's set it aside. In a lot of my other gluten-free recipes, there are major differences in the method between the regular recipe and the gluten-free one. With banana bread, it's not that much different. You mix the dry ingredients, you mix the wet ingredients, you mix them together, you put it in the pan, you put it in the oven. But the most important thing when making a banana bread gluten-free is the flours that you use. When developing this recipe, I tried a lot of different flours. I tried using a blend of flours that's more like your traditional gluten-free all-purpose blend, mainly rice and starches, and I tried using a fully whole grain mix. I ended up somewhere in between the two. I love the taste of the whole grain flours, but you do need a little bit of starch to give that light texture that we're going for. So we have 3 kinds of whole grain gluten-free flours. We have a 1/2 cup of brown rice flour. Brown rice flour is great for providing structure for your baked goods. A 1/2 cup of oat flour. I love using oat flour for banana bread because it's high in protein and fiber, and the oat taste goes so well with the bananas. And a 1/2 cup of almond flour. Almond flour gives an amazing light texture and also adds a lot of flavor to the banana bread. And a 1/3 cup of tapioca starch. Tapioca starch is my starch of choice because it has a bit of elasticity to it. It's gonna help to hold the banana bread together. Next, you're gonna add a 1/2 teaspoon of xanthan gum. Xanthan gum is a key ingredient to bind the banana bread together and to prevent it from crumbling. 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and this is optional, but I'm gonna add a teaspoon of cinnamon. Now we're just gonna whisk together all of the dry ingredients until they're well combined. And set that aside. Now you're gonna grab a separate bowl to mix together all of the wet ingredients. Let's start with our bananas. The riper, the better. I used 2 large bananas for this recipe. I'm just gonna weigh them for you today just so you know exactly how much I'm using. Peel your bananas. Ring, 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 ring. Banana. Oh my God. I got bananas on me. Okay. It's a phone with a peel. I've got banana all over me. Just give me a second. So generally I use about 230, 240 grams of bananas. Today I'm using 250. That was for 2 quite large bananas. I'm just gonna mash my bananas with a fork. Mash them. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. Banana stew. Ew. Maybe that's my next goal, is to make a banana stew, but like a dessert version. What do you think?
Ew.
I think that looks good. We get some chunks still in there. I like a little chunky banana bread. Next, we're gonna add a 1/3 cup of oil. I have canola oil here. You could also use melted butter if you like. I have tried it with both oil and butter. I like them both. I find that oil tends to stay moist a little bit longer, but it's up to you. A 1/3 cup of brown sugar, dark if you have it for the most flavor. Mix that in. Next, you're gonna add 2 room temperature eggs. The reason that you wanna have them room temperature is because they're gonna combine better with the oil or butter, especially if you're using melted butter or melted coconut oil. If you use cold eggs, it's gonna make it separate. So if you're taking your eggs out of the fridge, I would just put them into a bowl of warm water for about 10 minutes to get them to room temperature. And I'm gonna crack it into a separate bowl because for some reason on camera, I always get shells. This time I didn't. So 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 2 tablespoons of molasses. I'm using blackstrap molasses because it has the most flavor. If you don't like molasses, you could use maple syrup or honey. Speed up the process. And just whisk that together until it's completely smooth. All right, there we go. So grab your dry mixture. I will just mention here that if your oven hasn't finished preheating or you haven't greased your pan yet, do that first before you combine it, because as soon as you add the liquid into the dry, the leavening agents activate. And if you let it sit too long, then you're gonna lose some of the rise that you would get in the oven. So just make sure everything's ready to go before you combine it all. Let's pour it in. And I first toss it with a fork. And then I like to switch to my spatula just to get everything that's on the bottom of the bowl. The nice thing here is that because we're not developing any gluten, it doesn't really matter how long you mix it for. With regular banana bread, if you mix it too much, it'll make it gummy. That isn't the case here. So just go until it's nice and combined and there's no flour left at the bottom. So my batter is done. If you wanted to add nuts or chocolate chips, now would be the time to fold them in. But today I'm just going plain. We're gonna scoop it into our prepared pan. Just smooth out the top with the spatula. Now we're just gonna bake this for 45 to 50 minutes. This banana bread recipe with the molasses and the cinnamon would be really nice with some nuts added. So if you want to add nuts, you could fold in a half a cup of chopped pecans or walnuts, or whatever kind you like. And if you wanted to turn this into a super decadent chocolate chip banana bread, which I have done, what I recommend is leaving out the cinnamon, changing the molasses to maple syrup, and folding in a half a cup of mini chocolate chips. After your banana bread has baked for about 20 to 25 minutes, you'll want to rotate it just to ensure that it bakes evenly. If you start to notice that the top is browning a bit too much, just take a piece of aluminum foil and gently place it over top for the rest of the bake. All right, my banana bread is done. I baked it for about 45 minutes. The best way of knowing that your banana bread is done is just by looking at it. The most traditional way of telling if it's done is to use a toothpick. I find that this works sometimes, but with gluten-free baked goods, you have to let them cool completely to set. Because there's gums and starches in there, sometimes they will still be a bit gummy when they're warm, so you may accidentally overbake something if you just rely on the toothpick method. That's why I like to just look at what I've made. If it's pulled away from the edges a little bit, that's a good indication. But with banana bread, I find that when I pull on the rack, if the middle jiggles a little bit, then it's not done. But when I pull on the rack and I touch the top and it's nice and firm, I know that it's done in the center. Now we just need to turn it out onto a cooling rack. Before I do this, I'm just going to gently take a knife around the edges just to ensure that nothing's stuck. You could, of course, line your pan with parchment paper instead and then just pull it out, but I don't find that it's necessary. Just so I don't crush the top, I'm just gonna flip it out this way. And then I'm just gonna quickly flip it over with my hands. It's hot. Whoop. There we go. Now comes the hardest part of this recipe. You have to let it cool before you eat it. If you don't let it cool, you may notice that it's a bit sticky to the touch. Just be patient. Soon you will be rewarded with delicious banana bread. Now we're ready for everyone's favorite part, or at least my favorite part, the taste test. It's nice and soft. It has so much flavor. It's so moist. It's got a really nice crumb. There is no gumminess here. And it has the right amount of sweetness. I have very strong feelings about banana bread. Okay, I need a banana bread that is at least moderately healthy, but preferably healthy. There's a lot of banana bread recipes out there that When you look at the list of ingredients, I'm like, that's a cake. You know, it's got a cup of sugar, a cup of sour cream, or a whole bunch of butter, and I'm sure that it tastes amazing, but I don't want to have that with my morning coffee. This is my healthy take on banana bread, while still being an amazing comfort food.
Comfort food?
Yeah, no. I'm so comforted right now. It is a comfort food. Your home smells amazing. It's sweet, it's got a nice crumb. It's a comfort food. There you have it, gluten-free banana bread. Once again, if you want the written recipe and a printable PDF, head on over to my website, glutenfreebaconcourses.com. If you tried this recipe, please let me know how it turned out. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Now I've had a long day of filming and baking, so I can't wait to have a little cup of coffee, a little slice of banana bread. So, here we go.